Hi everyone, this is CC Cycle 2, Week 22, New Grammar. So for the timeline, there's lots of different ideas that you can do. You can mix up the cards and have to put them in order. You can sing the song without using the cards at all. I'm just going to go through each one and read it, and you can decide how you want to review that 7 times. So the first one is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the Korean War, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement, Jim and Elizabeth Elliot, missionaries to Ecuador, the Antarctic Treaty, the Vietnam War. So that's our 7 cards for timeline this week. For history this week, we are talking about the fall of communism. So tell me, oh, and before I forget, the timeline starts at 11 minutes 34 seconds for week 22. 11 minutes 34 seconds if you want that starting point on your song. Tell me about the fall of communism. In 1989, the communist dictators began to fall in Eastern Europe when Soviet General Secretary Gorbachev refused to send them military aid. So the motions that we're going to do this week for history, we're going to do 89 for 1989. So in 1989, the communist dictators began to fall in Eastern Europe when Soviet General Secretary Gorbachev refused to send military aid. So like you're making a gun. Okay, so in 1989, the communist dictators began to fall in Eastern Europe when Soviet General Secretary Gorbachev refused to send military aid. One more time. Tell me about the fall of communism. In 1989, communist dictators began to fall in Eastern Europe when Soviet General Secretary Gorbachev refused to send military aid. For math this week, we're doing commutative law. So there's no parentheses like last week. We're just saying the commutative law, okay? So you can do some mathercises, we call them, where you stand up and do jumping jacks. You can do some yoga poses. You can run around circles and then see how fast you can say it or how slow you can say it. You can say it in different voices, whatever you want to do to mix it up. So some yoga poses that you could try are the tree pose is an easy one, or you could do like a turtle pose where you sit kind of with your legs out and your arms underneath. There's lots of different ideas. So I'm just going to go through and say it a couple times and you decide how you want to review further. So for commutative law, the commutative law for addition states A plus B equals B plus A. The commutative law for multiplication states A times B equals B times A. So if we want to read it from the board, the commutative law for addition states A plus B equals B plus A. The commutative law for multiplication states A times B equals B times A. So you're just flipping these and it's the same exact thing for addition and multiplication. One more time. The commutative law for addition states A plus B equals B plus A. The commutative law for multiplication states A times B equals B times A. For Science this week. What are some ways light is observed? So they are reflection, refraction, spectrum, wave, and particle. So for our motions, for reflection, you're going to go like this and then like a mirror image, a reflection. So reflection, refraction, spectrum, you're going to go from one side all the way to the other. Spectrum, like the whole spectrum, and then wave, particle. What are some ways light is observed? Some ways light is observed are reflection, refraction, spectrum, wave, particle. What are some ways light is observed? Some ways that light is observed are reflection, refraction, spectrum, wave, particle. Your Latin is the same as it was last week, pluperfect tense, eram, eris, erat, eramis, eratis, erant. See how fast you can say that. And maybe if you want to write on little index cards what they are, and you can mix them up and then try and put them in order as fast as you can. You can maybe set a timer, time yourself, see how fast you can do it. You could write them out on, like if you have a dry erase board, you could write them out and see if you know how to spell them, in addition to knowing how to say them. Those are all my ideas for Latin. You could write them on popsicle sticks if you have that, and sort them as well. If there's more than one of you, you could have a race and see who could do it fastest. One more time. First conjugation endings, pluperfect tense is eram, eris, erat, eramis, eratis, erant. Okay, last thing. Oh, two things. Let's do English. For English, it's coordinating conjunctions, and we have an acronym. So that means a letter that helps your brain remember certain words. So the first letter of each of these words is going to spell a letter, and it's called fanboys. So your acronym is fanboys. So for the F, it's fan. For the A, and. N, nor. B is but. O, or. Y, yet. And S is so. So for English, coordinating conjunctions, fan, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. One more time. Coordinating conjunctions, fan, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Geography this week is Oceania, and that is right here. And we'll start with Indonesia at the top, and then Papua New Guinea right next to it. And then below that is the big island of Australia. Next to Australia is Great Barrier Reef, and then the smaller island down kind of southeast of Australia is New Zealand. So again, that's Oceania, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Australia, Great Barrier Reef, and New Zealand. And that is our geography called Oceania. Week 22, we are creating catapults. So we are constructing again, like you did your towers last week. Now we're building catapults. To review, what is the difference between kinetic and potential energy? Potential energy is energy that's stored up, and then kinetic energy is when the object is moving. So you can also review Newton's 3 laws of motion. There are lots of different kinds of catapults. You've got to think about lots of things when you're designing your catapult. So just a little bit of history and science behind the catapults. No matter what design you come up with to launch your projectile or what you are launching into the air, each catapult needs 2 things to work. It needs to have force and an energy. And if it doesn't have those 2 things, you're not going to have a successful launch. So this is all about physics, which is a specific part of science. It's also about movement. So when you're thinking about like a rubber band, you're pulling the rubber band back, that's potential energy. Then when you let go, that potential energy is transferred into kinetic energy as it's flying through the air. As you're pulling back on your catapult, making it ready to launch, you're storing up the potential energy. And then the tension created in your rubber bands is building up that potential energy, and it's giving you the force that you need to, you're going to launch whatever it is that you're launching in the air. When you let go, you're releasing that potential energy and you're transferring it, you're changing it into kinetic energy, because remember, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, so you're just changing it from potential to kinetic. Scientists also say you're transforming this energy. Different catapults are going to launch different distances depending on lots of things, your materials and the aerodynamics of your creation, what the weight of what you're launching through the air, if there's any wind resistance. So there's lots of things that can attribute to the distance. So last week with the towers, we were trying to compete to see how tall we could make our tower. This week, you're trying to see how far you can launch your object. So if you want to build a couple different catapults using different materials, different strategies, or if you want to compete with someone else and launch, you're measuring the distance. And scientists use centimeters. So if you have a ruler at home, you're using the little side that goes up to 30 something on the centimeter side, not the inches, because when scientists use the metric system, which is centimeters. So if you want to be scientifically accurate and scientifically minded, use the centimeters. If you've only got inches, just use what you've got. So you could look more into aerodynamics if you want to investigate this further. If you want to try it inside and outside to test the wind resistance or the air resistance, that would be another variable. Just make sure that you're only changing one thing at a time so you can compare what was causing the change in your results. You want to control your variables. Before the inventions of cannons with explosives, catapults were the most effective launching machines, and they were used in lots of different wars for attack and for protection. So it's kind of neat. I'm excited to see some pictures of what you guys come up with. You want to create a design of a catapult. Week 22, we are studying a new composer this week. His name is Antonin Vork. He was born in the Czech Republic in September 8, 1841, and he died May 1st, 1904. He was also in the Romantic period, just like Brahms, who we studied last week. So he was born in a village. He was the oldest of 9 children. His father was a butcher, and he wanted Antonin to become a butcher too. But when he saw how musical Antonin was, he made sure that he got a good music education, including violin and organ lessons. Vork got a job as a church organist, but what he really wanted to do was compose. So he entered his compositions in a government-sponsored contest and won. The prize money allowed Vork to quit his church job and made him well known as a composer. In spite of the fact that he never took composition lessons, he taught composition at the Prague Conservatory, and he also taught in New York City for a couple of years. The last of his 9 symphonies was written in the United States and is nicknamed for the fact that it hails from the New World. So, this is our composer that we're studying this week. Just a reminder, you are practicing attentive listening. You want to make sure that you are focusing only on the music and nothing else, no other distractions. If you want to get comfortable and lay down, get a blanket and a pillow. You're just listening for specific parts of the music that you recognize, instruments that you may know of, the pitch, the tempo, all of the things that we've talked about with tin whistle, the different terms that you know, if it's getting louder and softer, pianissimo. Remember all those words and those terms that we talked about with tin whistle, they also can apply to classical music as well. So you're listening, you're just relaxing and taking in the music, and you want to listen to it at least 2 times. You can follow along with the guide that tells you what's happening and kind of what the composer was thinking, or you can just listen to it for 2 times and just relax and talk about it. What things did you notice? What things did you hear? How did the music change throughout the little clip that you're listening to? Enjoy!